Hello and welcome back to Russ's Movie Corner. My name is Russ, and as you can see, I am sitting in front of my movie corner. I have my Through Faith t-shirt on, my Gospel of John movie right next to me, and judging by the frame around me, we are back, taking down Brent Wessels' Bible Verses for Flat Earth spreadsheet. And, so when last we left off, we kind of looked at a bunch of these verses about waters have a face, can't be upon, under, or over a globe earth, only flat earth. And we talked a little bit about under the sun, which, I mean, the only thing that mentions that, the only book that mentions that, Ecclesiastes, which has no thing. And then this one's talking about the sun moves, not earth, which is not actually talking about the sun moving. It's actually more talking about just the sunset or the sunrise. It's not actually talking about the sun itself moving, because we have every single day a sunrise and a sunset. I mean, it's like, and again, this is not saying that the sun is the one that is moving. It's just talking about during the day you have sunrise and you have sunset. Certain things that happen. But we'll jump back into this, and we're going to jump into, let's see here. Deuteronomy 11:30. So Deuteronomy is the last book of it's the last of the 5 books of Moses, the Pentateuch, which is basically, this is the last of the 5 books of Moses. This was also where Moses kind of came in and did his sort of, thing. Like, he came in and said, hey, this is kind of my last hurrah, I'm about to die, and then you guys are going to go into the promised land because the Lord said that I could not go into the promised land. And so he goes in and, he did a whole bunch of stuff. Now, interestingly enough, okay, so we're going to start in verse 18 of Deuteronomy. Okay? This is Moses talking about loving the Lord, loving and serving the Lord. You shall therefore lay up these words of mine in your heart and in your soul, and you shall bind them as a sign on your hand. And they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall teach them to your children, talking of them when you are sitting in your house, when you are walking by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, that your days and the days of your children may be multiplied in the land the Lord swore to your fathers to give them, as long as the heavens are above the earth. For if you will be careful to do all this commandment that I have commanded you to do, loving the Lord your God, walking in all his ways and holding fast to him, then the Lord will drive out all these nations before you, and you will dispossess nations greater and mightier than you. Every place on earth, every place on which the sole of your foot treads shall be yours. Your territory shall be from the wilderness to the Lebanon, and from the river Euphrates to the western river, the river talking about the river Jordan. No one shall be able to stand against you. The Lord your God will lay the fear of you and the dread of you on all the land that you shall tread, as he promised you. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you today, and the curse, if you do not obey the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn aside from the way that I am commanding you today, to go after other gods that you have not known. And when the Lord your God brings you into the land that you are entering to take possession of it, you shall set the blessing on Mount Gerizim and the curse on Mount Ebal. Are they not beyond the Jordan, west of the road, going towards the going down of the sun, in the land of the Canaanites who live in the Arabah, opposite Gilgal, beside the oak of Moreh? For you are to cross over the Jordan to go in to take possession of the land that the Lord your God is giving you. And when you possess it and live in it, you shall be careful to do all these statutes and the rules that I am setting before you today. So where does the sun go down? Ask yourself that question. Where does the sun set? The west? What direction, if you cross over the River Jordan and head towards the Mediterranean Sea, what direction are you heading? West. I mean, honestly, that's all he's saying. He's just saying that when you enter, some people are going to stand on one mountain and they're going to shout the blessing, and other people are going to stand on another mountain and they're going to shout the curse. And where are these two mountains? Are they not on the other side of the Jordan, by the way where the sun goes down, in the land of the Canaanites? Aren't they to the west of the River Jordan? He doesn't have to say west, he just says, aren't they in that direction where the sun goes down every day? Because isn't that where the sun sets every frickin' day, is in the west? Yeah. That's all it's saying. It's not saying that the sun moves. He's just saying the way that the sun sets, that's on beyond the River Jordan, in the direction that the sun sets, i.e. the west. That's where the mountains are that you will shout the blessing and the curse from, which they actually do in Joshua chapter 1 or 2. They actually go up on top of the mountains before they go to Jericho, and they actually shout the blessing and the curse from the top of the mountains, exactly as Moses said they should. Again, is that supposed to be some massive revelation? Again, this guy is eisegeting so hard into the text that he can't even understand that this isn't talking about the sun moving, it's just talking about the direction that the sun sets every single day. It sets in the west. And if you look at a frickin' map, what does it show? It shows the River Jordan, and if you walk to the west of, and if you walk in the direction that the sun goes down, which direction are you walking from the River Jordan? You're walking west, right? It's pretty friggin' simple, man. I mean, come on. Seriously. Now, Deuteronomy 16:6, this is talking about Passover, okay? So, this is something that, as there was a brand new thing going on, okay? There's a brand new generation, okay? And while they had been told what was going on, this is Moses' sort of final sermon to this brand new generation. And he's basically reaffirming everything that he's told the previous generation that has died off. Before this new generation goes in and takes over possession, he's kind of reiterating a lot of what he's already told people. He's just kind of summing things up, okay? So he's talking about the Passover. It says, observe the month of Abib, And keep the Passover to the Lord your God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord your God brought you out of Egypt by night. And you shall offer the Passover sacrifice to the Lord your God from the flock or the herd at the place that the Lord will choose, to make his name dwell there. You shall eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days you shall eat it with unleavened bread, the bread of affliction, for you came out of the land of Egypt in haste, that all the days of your life you may remember the day when you came out of the land of Egypt. No leaven shall be seen with you in all your territory for 7 days, nor shall any of the flesh that you sacrifice on the evening of the first day remain all night until morning. You may not offer the Passover sacrifice within any of your towns that the Lord your God is giving you, but at the place that the Lord your God will choose to make his name dwell in it, there you shall offer the Passover sacrifice in the evening at sunset, at the time you came out of Egypt. And you shall cook it and eat it at the place that the Lord your God will choose. And in the morning you shall turn and go to your tents. For 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a solemn assembly to the Lord your God. You shall do no work on it. So basically, all he's saying here is when you cross over into the Canaanite land, the land that is going to be promised to you, after you drive out all the Canaanites, the Lord your God is going to choose a place for the tent of meeting, the tabernacle. And when it comes time, in the month of Abib, when you're going to come for the Passover celebration, you're going to leave your homes, you're going to sojourn to the place of the tent of meeting, you're going to camp around the tent of meeting, and then every day, and then the first day of the tent of meeting, you're going to walk up and you're going to offer your sacrifice. Okay? It says, there you shall offer the Passover sacrifice in the evening at sunset at the time you came out of Egypt. That is why, for Jewish people, even today, their Passover day, their day starts at sunset on, like, say, Friday, and then it goes all day Saturday to sunset. So their day is sunset to sunset. Okay? So they're saying that the first day of Passover, you're going to go there and you're going to sacrifice your animal and you're going to eat it that night, because that is your remembrance of the last meal that you ate when you sacrificed the lamb and put the blood on the doorpost so that the Spirit of God would pass over you. And then you left at night, which is why you're eating at night, because that's the remembrance. Okay? And then for 6 more days you're going to eat unleavened bread, okay? Because that's what you ate coming out of Egypt, because because bread, if you try to raise bread dough, right, it takes time to rise, if you've ever made bread, okay? Because the yeast takes time to work. And so the Lord is saying you're going to eat the unleavened bread. Why? Because the unleavened bread is there for one purpose and one purpose only. It's a reminder of how quickly the Israelites had to leave. So you're going to eat the unleavened bread for 6 days, and then on the 7th day, you will have a solemn assembly around the tent of meeting, and then you will go back to your homes. Okay, you don't do any work on it. Okay? Then they have the Feast of Weeks, where they count 7 weeks. Okay? From the time the sickle is first put to the standing grain, then you shall keep the Feast of Weeks to the Lord, when the tribute of freewill offering from your hand, which you shall give as the Lord your God blesses you. This is the tithe. Okay? It's also known as a wave offering. Okay? Because you would walk in and you would take the first bushel of this stuff and you would wave it before the Lord, and then you would give it. And guess what? Because the Levites actually didn't do any work, okay, that was their food. Okay? That was their food. Their food was the offerings, the sin offerings, and the wave offerings and the grain offerings. Okay? All of those offerings, okay, the reason why the Lord said, if you go back and look through like Leviticus and you look through Numbers and you look a little bit in Deuteronomy, when it says you'll give an offering of, this many ephahs of flour and this many ephahs of oil, and you'll offer it, and then you'll cook it on the altar, and blah, blah, blah. What does it instruct the priest to do? Eat it. That's your food. Okay? So when you brought a sin offering, okay, so you brought a ram for a sin offering, okay, you would bring that ram in, you would hold on to the ram, okay, you would place your hand on top of the ram, okay, and you would say, I am offering this ram as an atonement for my sin and my family's sin, okay. Then the priest would take his knife and he would slit the ram's throat. Then he would take a little vessel and he would catch the blood. Then he would offer the blood to the altar. Okay, there were 4 little horns, and he would dip his finger or his thumb into the thing, and then he would touch all 4 corners or little horns, and he would touch those with the blood. Then he would pour the blood at the base of the altar. That was to show that you are atoning for your sin using the blood. Instead of your own blood, you're using an animal's blood as a substitutionary sacrifice, a propitiation. You're putting your sin on that animal and killing the animal instead of yourself for the sins of yourself. Okay? That was the substitutionary sacrifice. And so they would cut it, and then what they would do is they would cut it and dress it. Okay? Which is they would cut it open and they would remove all of the organs and all of that stuff, which you would take outside and you would throw out into the fire that would burn out in the outside of the tent of meeting, away from the tent of meeting. Okay? Then the person would cut and butcher the animal up. Okay? And then they would set it on a special furnace, which was the burnt offering. Okay? And the burnt offering was literally a barbecue. Okay? And to not let that meat go to waste, because the Levite priests were not allowed to do any work, how would they get food if they didn't have that? This was literally a twofold thing. It was a sacrifice so that the Israelites could eat, okay, so that the Levite priests could eat, but it was also a sacrifice for the person to be able to atone for the sin in their life. Now, the reason why we Christians don't do this anymore is because Jesus Christ became the propitiatory sacrifice. He became the propitiation for the sins of the world, okay? By becoming the Lamb of God, the Passover Lamb. He literally died on Passover, which is what this passage is about. So, again, this passage is not talking about the shape of the earth, the sun moving, nothing. It is literally saying when the sun goes down, it's a time thing, at sunset on the first day is when you will eat the sacrifice. Okay? Because the Levite priests were brought flocks that they cut to consecrate for themselves. That's what they ate on the first night. Okay? It's in Leviticus when Aaron becomes the brand new priest, okay? He was told that before Passover comes, you must make an atonement for yourself and the priests, and that sacrifice will be your food while the other people are eating their own animals that they sacrifice. As a remembrance of the Passover that allowed them to A, live, and to B, leave the land of Egypt. So again, this is not about... This doesn't have anything to do with the sun moving. It has everything to do with with just saying at sunset. I mean, it would be like saying at 6 o'clock in the evening you will eat this, or at 5:30 in the evening you will eat this, or at 7:30 in the evening you will eat this. That's all it's saying. Whenever sunset may be for you, that's when it's saying to eat it, is when the sun hits the horizon. That's all. It's not saying that the sun is literally moving. It's just saying when the sun sets. When the sun sets, that's it. The going down of the sun is literally just saying when it's going down over the horizon. That's it. The problem with flat earthers is that to do this kind of stuff, they have to eisegete the text so damn hard that they can't even understand that this isn't talking about the sun moving. This is talking about the time of day. It's literally talking about the time of day. Here's Deuteronomy 23:11. Okay, I'm willing to bet, okay, that this has absolutely nothing to do with the sun moving. Okay? Here's starting in verse 9 of chapter 23. Okay? When you are encamped against your enemies, then you shall keep yourself from every evil thing. If a man among you becomes unclean because of a nocturnal emission, then he shall go outside the camp. He shall not come inside the camp, but when evening comes, he shall bathe himself as water, as the sun sets, and as the sun sets, he may come inside the camp. You shall have a place outside the camp, and you shall go out to it. And you shall have a trowel with your tools, and when you sit down outside, you shall dig a hole with it, and turn back and cover up your excrement. Because the Lord your God walks in the midst of your camp to deliver you, to give up your enemies before you, therefore your camp must be holy, so that he may not see anything indecent among you and turn away from you. Oh, I'm sorry, again, were you expecting something different? This is literally not talking about, like, doing that. This is talking about if a guy, like, has a wet dream, or, like, pees himself, or maybe even defecates on himself during the night, okay, then he goes outside the camp, okay. It says, if any man among you becomes unclean because of a nocturnal emission, then he shall go outside the camp. He shall not come inside the camp. But when evening comes, okay, that means after about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, okay, when evening comes, he shall bathe himself in water, and as the sun sets, he may come inside the camp. Basically what that's saying is like, it's, okay, he wakes up in the middle of the night and he realizes, oh my God, I peed myself in the middle of the night. So he has to get up and leave the camp. And he has to stay outside of the camp during the whole of the day, okay, the rest of the night, the whole of the day, and then after, when the evening comes, before the sun sets, but after the afternoon, and that's usually, again, that's around about 3 to 4 p.m., okay, because that was kind of when Jesus died at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, okay, they said, you know, they begged the Romans that they could take his body and go place him in the tomb before the sunset, because the Sabbath was coming on, and they needed to be able to put him in the tomb before sunset, because if they didn't get him into the tomb before sunset, they couldn't bury his body before the Sabbath. And he would literally be late. He would literally hang on the cross for an entire day. And they didn't want that. They wanted him to have some dignity in his death. Okay? So they literally asked them, look, sunset is coming on. So that's what I'm saying. It's like 3 or 4 in the afternoon is evening time. Okay? And so by the time they could get the crosses down, and then they could get Jesus off the cross, then they had to wrap him up in the burial cloth, and they had to carry him to the tomb. This would have taken a couple of hours. And depending on when he died, okay, what time of year it was when he died, which is around Passover, okay, the days are starting to lengthen, but still, it's like things are gonna, it's probably around about 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening is when sun sets. And so they wanted to make sure that they got his body inside, laid him down, and then got back out of the tomb and rolled the stone in front of it before sunset. Because if sunset happened, that was the Sabbath. They could no longer work from sunset to sunset, which is why it's not until the following morning, okay, on Sunday morning, that Mary Magdalene and some of the other ladies came to the tomb to dress the body, because they didn't have a chance to. So they were going back, and they were going to tell the Romans, can you please unseal the tomb, roll the stone away, we're going to go in and we're going to apply the spices to the body, we're going to do all of that stuff to properly give him the right burial rites. And that's when they noticed that the Roman soldiers were either gone or passed out, and the stone was rolled away. Okay? But same thing, okay? You can't go back into the camp at this point, okay? Because if you've soiled yourself, then you have to leave the camp for the day, okay? Then you bathe yourself with water in the evening, and then after the sun sets, because now it's a new day, you can come back into the camp, okay? Then you would come back into the camp, you would go back to bed. Okay, and you would get up the next morning and then go from there. Okay, and it's because the Lord was saying, okay, this camp is to remain holy, i.e., you're not to go to the bathroom inside the camp. You're to set a place outside of camp where you go out with a little shovel or a trowel and you dig a small hole. Take a dump in the hole, go to the bathroom in the hole, okay? You pee and poop in the hole, then you pull then you cover it back up so that it's covered, okay? Then you come back into the camp. You don't do things like this in the camp. This is what that's saying, okay? Again, it's not talking about the sun moving. It's talking about the time of day when you're allowed back in the camp. Again, this has nothing to do with the sun moving or the shape of the earth. This is literally the time of day. Because, in case he didn't understand, it says, when evening cometh on, he shall wash himself with water, and when the sun is down, he shall come into the camp again. It's not talking about... like, dude, it's not talking about the sun moving. It's talking about the time of day. Learn what is being said. 90% of this stuff where it says sun goes down, sun arises, all this kind of fucking bullshit, this guy doesn't understand that it's literally talking about the time of day. And it has nothing to do with the sun moving. It's not the sun that's moving, it's the earth that's rotating, dude. Bob Nodella literally confirmed that the earth was round. Because he took a little, thing and found that there was a 15 degree per hour drift. Which is exactly what you'd expect on a round spherical earth. Why do you think we have time zones, you moron? We have time zones because the earth is round. And we found if we sailed or if we traveled a certain amount of time, okay, that time either, like, the sun set quicker because if you went east, the sun went down faster because you started noticing that the further east you got, the different the time was. But if you went west, it went the opposite way. You got more time. But they discovered that it doesn't matter where you stand on the earth. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. Literally. So you'd have to be some kind of an idiot not to understand this. Ay, ay, ay. All right, we're going to do both of these passages in Deuteronomy 24 because they're literally right next to each other. Okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in verse 10, because these are just miscellaneous laws. So I'm just going to read from verse 10, just because we're kind of getting a little bit of this context for 13, and then we'll read through 14, 15. Okay. When you make your neighbor a loan of any sort, you shall not go into his house and collect his pledge. You shall stand outside, and the man to whom you made the loan shall bring the pledge out to you. And if he is a poor man, you shall not sleep in his pledge. You shall restore him the pledge as the sun sets, that he may sleep in his cloak and bless you. And it shall be righteousness for you before the Lord your God. You shall not oppress a hired worker who is poor and needy, whether he is one of your brothers or one of the sojourners who are in your land within your towns. You shall give him his wages on the same day before the sun sets, for he is poor and counts on it, lest he cry against you to the Lord, and you be guilty of sin. Fathers shall not be put to death because of their children, nor shall their children be put to death because of their fathers. Each one shall be put to death for his own sin. And then it goes on from there. So, basically, okay, here again, that's not talking about the sun moving at all. It's literally talking about if you loan someone something, you don't bust into his house, okay? You don't bust on into his house like the Kool-Aid Man and run around collecting things to pay back the loan, okay? You let the man come out and give you the money. You knock on his door and you stand back and you say, yo, dude, you owe me that money. And if he goes, yeah, hang on 1 second, let me go grab it, walks back into his house, you don't follow him into his house unless he offers you in. You stand outside and then he comes out and gives you the money. And if he's poor, then you say, you know what? I get it. You're poor. I'm not going to collect the debt right now. I forgive the debt against you. And then it talks about if you have a hired worker who is poor and needy, whether he is one of your brothers or one of the sojourners who are in your land within your towns, you shall give him his wages on the same day before the sun sets. What is that supposed to mean? Well, when is he going to buy food if he doesn't have money? If you don't give him money in the evening after he's done working most of the day and the sun is starting to go down, if you don't give him his money so that he can go buy food, if the next day is the Sabbath, how the hell is he supposed to go out and buy food? Because nobody's going to be working that day. So you have to give them their wages. Again, these are about the time of day. It has nothing, literally nothing to do with the shape of the earth or whether or not the sun is moving. It literally is the time of day. I mean, are you stupid? I think the answer in this case is yes. In fact, I think this is probably the most idiotic thing I've ever seen. That I've literally been doing this for so long now that it's clear to me that this guy doesn't even know what the Bible actually says. And he wants to call himself a Christian. He's not a Christian, folks. This guy doesn't know what the hell the Bible's talking about. Okay? Now, these two are fairly close as well. Okay? Oh man, this guy's an idiot. All right. Get a little drink of water here. Okay. Then Moses set apart 3 cities in the east beyond the Jordan, that the manslayer might flee there. Anyone who kills his neighbor unintentionally, without being at enmity with him in time past, he may flee to one of these cities and save his life. Bezer in the wilderness on the tableland for the Reubenites, Ramoth in Gilead for the Gadites, and Golan in the Bashan for the Manassites. This is the law that Moses set before the people of Israel. These are the testimonies, the statutes, and the rules which Moses spoke to the people of Israel when they came out of Egypt, beyond the Jordan in the valley opposite Beth Peor, in the land of Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who lived at Heshbon, whom Moses and the people of Israel defeated when they came out of Egypt. And they took possession of his land and the land of Og, the king of Bashan, the 2 kings of the Amorites, who lived to the east beyond the Jordan, from Aroer, which is on the edge of the valley of the Arnon, as far as Mount Sirion, that is Hermon, together with all the Arabah on the east side of the Jordan, as far as the sea of Arabah under the slopes of Pisgah. Oh, I'm sorry. You thought this was about the sun moving? It's the friggin' direction of where they are! I mean, are you stupid? Can you not read? Like literally, I've asked this a number of times, okay? Can this guy not read? Does he not understand that when they're talking about, like, certain things, okay, they're talking about directions here, okay? Because again, just like up here in Deuteronomy 11:30, okay, where he's literally saying, okay, and when the Lord your God brings you into the land that you are entering to take possession of it, you shall set the blessing on Mount Gerizim and the curse on Mount Ebal. Are they not beyond the Jordan, west of the road, toward the going down of the sun? What? Wait a minute. Where does the sun set? In the west. Where does the sun rise? In the east. It's always been that way. It doesn't matter, dude. Look at a friggin' map of Israel. You'll start to notice, oh geez, the Jordan is on the west side and the Mediterranean Sea is on the east, Mediterranean's on the west and the Jordan's on the east. Duh. And where did Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh stay? On the east side of the Jordan? Looks like somebody's never studied geography. Like, ever. And I'm dead serious about this. It doesn't seem like this guy knows a thing about geography or knows a thing about how the sun rises and sets and where the sun rises and sets. Because it just seems like he's just pulling shit out of his ass and hoping that it sticks. Okay? And I'm sorry to say that doesn't actually work. Okay? Because you look like an idiot. Yeah, let's go back to the book of Ecclesiastes, because that worked so well for you last time. Idiot. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What does a man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun goes down, and hastens to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south and goes around to the north. Around and around goes the wind, and on all its circuits the wind returns. All streams run into the sea, but the sea is not full. to the place where the streams flow, and there they flow again. All things are full of weariness, a man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. What has been will be, and what has been done is what will be done. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing of which it is said, see, this is new? It has been already in the ages before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of later things yet to be among those who come after. What's he saying there? He's saying things just happen. Okay? This was written towards the end of Solomon's life. Okay? When he had had a ton of stuff going on in his life. Okay? And he had come to the end of his life and he realized that it didn't matter that he had all the wisdom in the world. It didn't matter that he had all the concubines and wives and everything else in the world. It didn't matter that he had all the wealth in the world. It didn't matter that he was the king of Israel. It didn't matter about anything. Why? Because his time was coming to an end. That's literally what he's talking about here. He's just saying, day after day, time marches on. That's what he's talking about here. Time marching on. The sun rises and sets, and then it hastens back to rise again, and it sets again, and then it just keeps on going. It's just a big circle. That's all he's talking about. He's not talking about the movement of the sun. He's not talking about the shape of the earth. He's just talking about the days just cycle in a big circle. That's what he's talking about here. Again, a little bit of common sense. Anyone? Anyone? Bueller. It seems like this guy can't even understand what is going on. I mean, it's so stupid. Ay, ay, ay. I mean, if we're going to go to this passage in Ephesians, we might as well go ahead and go to the passage in Matthew, where he talks about his brother being angry. I don't even know if he does. Oh. No. There it is. Yep. There it is. Matthew 5:45. Yep. That ye be the children of your Father which is in heaven, for he maketh the sun to rise on the evil and the good, and to send his rain on the just and the unjust. Oh, looks like he missed the part where Jesus actually said in Matthew chapter 5, because I literally just talked about this. Okay? Where he actually says, you have heard that it was said of those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council, and whoever says you fool will be liable to the fire of hell. So if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there is someone, and there remember that you that your brother has something against you, leave your gift before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are going with him to court, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you be put into prison. Truly I say to you, you will never get out until you pay the last penny. And literally that's the same thing that Paul is saying here in Ephesians 4:26. He's literally saying the exact same thing. Okay? Therefore, having put away falsehood, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and give opportunity to the devil. Let the thief no longer steal, but rather let him labor, doing honest work with his hands, so that he may have something to share with anyone in need. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as it fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. And do not grieve the Holy Spirit, by God, by whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you. Literally, he's saying the same thing that Jesus is saying about anger here. Okay? He's saying, don't harbor the grudge. Don't let the sun go down while you're still angry, because you're going to pick at it. Okay? And you're not going to be able to sleep peacefully. That's what he's talking about. And literally, Jesus is saying the same thing here. Okay? And he's saying the same thing in verse 45. When he's talking about loving your enemies. Okay? Because he's not talking about the sun moving. When Jesus says he makes the sun rise on the evil and on the good, and send rains on the just and on the unjust, he's literally saying that, does not the sun rise and set on everyone on earth? Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not, doesn't matter what your sins are, does the sun not rise and set every single day over every single person on earth? Jesus is asking a rhetorical question there. Just like when God is asking rhetorical questions of Job in chapter 38 through 41. He's literally talking about, do you not understand that this is the kind of stuff that's going to happen, folks? Okay? And Paul is reiterating that in Ephesians. Okay? He's just saying, look, because you're children of God, if you're angry, and that's fine. But it's okay to be angry, but don't let that anger fester. Don't go to bed at night harboring that anger, because you're just going to pick at it. That's how bitterness starts, okay? Trust me, I know. That's how bitterness starts. Okay, Exodus 17, verse 12. Okay, so King Amalek, okay, had done a few things to the Israelites, okay, made some big boasts and did a few things, and he says, then Amalek came and fought with the Israel at Rephidim. So Moses said to Joshua, choose for us men, and go out and fight with Amalek tomorrow. I will stand on top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand. So Joshua did as Moses told him and fought with Amalek, while Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. Whenever Moses held up his hand, Israel prevailed, and whenever he lowered his hand, Amalek prevailed. When Moses' hand grew weary, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it, while Aaron and Hur held up his hands, one on one side, and on the other on the other side. So his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua overwhelmed Amalek and his people with the sword. Then the Lord said to Moses, write this as a memorial in a book, and recite it in the ears of Joshua, that I will utterly blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. And Moses built an altar and called the name of it, the Lord is my banner, saying, a hand upon the throne of the Lord. The Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. So this is literally, again, it's not talking about the sun moving. It's talking about Moses is supposed to go up, because he told Joshua, you're going to go out and fight with Amalek, and I'm going to stand on the hill and I'm going to raise my staff. And while I've got my hands up, you're going to win. If I put my hands down, you're going to lose. Okay? And so literally, Aaron and Hur had to hold Moses' hands up in the air. So like literally they were holding his hands up like this. Okay? Because his hands got so tired from holding them up. If you've ever held your hands up for any length of period of time, after a while, you start to do this, don't you? Because your arm starts to get heavy, your muscles start to sag, and you start to go like this. So it's literally saying that, okay, until the sun went down, literally, again, the time of day, the sunset, okay, they were holding his hands up. That's it. That's all it is. Has nothing to do with the shape of the earth or the sun moving. It's just the time of day that they held his hands. Okay? So that the Israelites prevailed. Because when his hands were up, they were winning. When his hands were down, they were losing. My God, are you flippin' ignorant, man. Okay, we're going to take Exodus 22 here. We're going to do the first part here, and then we'll flip down and do the next part, through 26. So this is laws about restitution. Okay? So again, these were laws about, like, what happens if something happens. So for example, in 21:33, when a man opens a pit, or when a man digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls into it, the owner of the pit shall make restoration. He shall give money to its owner, and the dead beast shall be his. So basically it's saying, okay, you go out, and let's say you've got some raiders on your land, and you decide to dig a little pit, okay? And while you get done digging the pit, and you walk away, okay, and your neighbor's donkey happens to be trotting along and falls into the pit and dies. Okay? You go over to your neighbor. Hey, dude, I was digging a pit for defense, and your donkey came over and landed in my pit. How much do you want for it? Oh, that donkey was worth this much. Okay, here you go. You give him the money, and then you take the donkey up out of the thing, and you bury it, or you do whatever. Okay? You can burn it, you can eat it, whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay? Now, here's the next one. If a man steals an ox or a sheep and kills it or sells it, he shall repay 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. If a thief is found breaking in and is struck so that he dies, there shall be no blood guilt for him. But if the sun has risen on him, there shall be blood guilt for him. He shall surely pay. If he has nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. If the stolen beast is found alive in his possession, whether it is an ox or a donkey or a sheep, he shall pay double. So literally, this is just saying, look, if you go in and you steal a guy's, sheep, and an ox or whatever, okay, and so let's say I go in and I steal your sheep, okay, but you hear me, and you come out, and you, like, whack me over the back of the head so hard it kills me. Okay? My family, at that point, doesn't owe you anything. Okay? Because it's done. I was at guilt, and that blood guilt is now dealt with because you killed me. Does that make sense? But if the sun has risen on him, basically, if you see me stealing from you, you know who I am, okay, and you don't catch up to me, then I owe you. That's the point of this passage. Okay? That's all it means. It doesn't mean that the sun literally rising, okay? It's talking about, like, you know, it basically says, if you see me, you know it's me, I owe you money, and if I can't pay you, then I am sold into a slavery, a bondservantship for that theft, to pay back the amount of money owed for what I stole. Does that make sense? Again, it has nothing to do with the sun actually moving. It's just talking about, if you see me stealing and you know it's me stealing from you, I have to pay you back, and if I can't pay you back, I'm sold into slavery for it, to pay it off. Make sense? Okay. Let's go to verse 25. Okay? If you lend money to any of my people who with you who is poor, you shall not be like a moneylender to him, and you shall not exact interest from him. If you ever take your neighbor's cloak in pledge, you shall return it to him before the sun goes down, for that is his only covering, and it is his cloak for his body, and what else shall he sleep? And if he cries to me, I will hear, for I am compassionate. Okay? Again, this is not talking about the sun moving. This is talking about, if I come to you and I say, can you lend me some money? And you say, okay, give me your cloak in pledge. And I say, okay. So I give you my cloak, you give me some money. Okay? And you know I'm a poor person, right? So I go away, I pay the money, then I come back, and I give you, and I say, hey, I can't pay you back, because I'm poor. You know that I'm poor. Then the Lord commands you to say, okay, here's your cloak back. I know you're poor, okay, and you need this to sleep in. That's it. And you have to do it before the sunset. Why would you have to do it before the sunset? Because I need to sleep, right? And if that's all I have is the cloak on my back, okay, then you give that back to me so that I can go sleep. You don't withhold it. That's the point of the passage. Again, it has nothing to do with the shape of the earth or whatever the frick is going down. Now, Genesis 15, because why not? Okay. Starting in verse 7 of chapter 15, I'm going to read down through the end of the passage. And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out from Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess. But he, Abraham, said, O Lord God, how am I to know that I shall possess it? God, said to him, bring me a heifer 3 years old, and a female goat 3 years old, and a ram 3 years old, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he brought him all these, cut them in half, laid each half over against the other. But he did not cut the birds in half. And when the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, Abram drove them away. As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, and behold, a dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Abram, know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be servants there, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterward they shall come out with great possessions. As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age, and they shall come back here in the 4th generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. When the sun had gone down, and it was dark, behold, a smoking firepot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your offspring I will give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river of the Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, and the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. So literally it's talking about, again, it's talking about the time of day. Has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on. Okay? We'll go for a couple more here. Okay? So, Genesis 19:23. Okay? I'll start with so this is basically Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay? This is the passage of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay? I'm going to start in verse 12 and I'm going to read down through I'm going to read down to verse 29. Then the men said to Lot, "Have you anyone else here, sons-in-law, sons, daughters, or anyone you have in the city? Bring them out of this place, for we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against its people has become great before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and said to his sons-in-law, who were to marry his daughters, "Up, get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city." But he seemed to his sons-in-law to be jesting. As the morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be swept away in the punishment of the city." But he lingered. So the men seized him and his wife and his 2 daughters by the hand, the Lord being merciful to him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. And as they brought them out, one said, "Escape for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the hills, lest you be swept away." And Lot said to them, "Oh no, my lords. Behold, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have shown me great kindness in saving my life. But I cannot escape to the hills, lest the disaster overtake me and I die. Behold, this city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my life will be saved." He said to him, "Behold, I grant you this favor also, that I will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Escape there quickly, for I can do nothing till you arrive there." Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar, Zoar meaning little. The sun had risen on the earth when Lot came to Zoar. Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all of the valley, and all of the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord, and he looked down up toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward the land of the valley. And he looked, and behold, the smoke of the land went up like the smoke of a furnace. So it was that when when God destroyed the cities of the valley, God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had lived. So that's literally, like, it's saying what? In the morning. Literally, when the sun had come up in the east, rose. That's literally sunrise. It's literally a time of day. Again, it's not the sun moving. It's talking about the time of day. Remember, they didn't have watches back then, okay? They didn't look at their watch and say, "Oh, it's like, 7 o'clock in the morning." No, they just went, "Oh, look, the sun's coming up." The sun was rising. It's just a time of day, dude. It has nothing to do with the sun moving. It's just the time of day. Ay, ay, ay. I can't facepalm hard enough. I really can't. This is so stupid. So, basically, right, this takes place after Jacob had stolen Esau's birthright. Okay? Because Rachel wanted Isaac to bless Jacob. Okay? Did not want him to bless Esau. Okay? And so what ends up happening is Esau gets mad. Okay? And Jacob left. Okay? And was sent to Laban, who was of the family of Rachel. Okay? And he was basically sending Jacob there to take a wife, because he was like, don't take a wife here. These are Canaanites. These are pagans. You do not want to do that. Okay? And so Esau, okay, like, hears that Jacob was sent to Laban to take a wife. So to spite Jacob and Isaac, he goes and he goes to Ishmael, the son of Abraham, right? The first son that by the serving woman of Sarah, Hagar, and takes a wife from his tribe to kind of spite Isaac and Jacob. Okay? And so Jacob is going to meet Laban. Okay? And this is often referred to as the dream of Jacob's ladder. Okay? And I'll explain it here in a second when we get, because I'm going to read through a little bit of that passage so that you understand where I'm coming from with this. So this is literally Jacob having a dream, because he's traveling and it becomes nighttime, and so he lays down to sleep, and then he has a dream. It says, Jacob left Beersheba and went towards Haran. And when he came to a certain place and stayed there that night, because the sun had set. Oh, gee, what time was it? Oh, nighttime, because it was after sunset. Duh! Literally, that's what that passage is talking about, you moron. Ay, ay, ay. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and behold, there was a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached into heaven. And behold, the angel of gods were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham, your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and your offspring. Your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in you and your offspring shall be the families of the earth be blessed. Behold, I am with you, and I will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land. For I will not leave you until I have done what I promised you. Then he awoke, and he did this whole thing. And so he built a stone. He took the stone and he set it up on a pillar and poured oil, and he named the place Bethel. Okay? Which means the house of God. Because he was literally saying, here I had this dream of this ladder coming down with angels coming and going on it. Okay? Ascending and descending on it, and God above it, and I'm thinking, wow, this is the gate to heaven. So this is the house of God, aka Bethel. Okay? So literally, why did he do that? Oh, because it was nighttime. And he's not going to travel at night. He's going to sleep. So what does he do? He sleeps. Again, it has nothing to do with the sun moving. It has everything to do with what time of day is. It's after the sun set. You'd have to be some kind of an absolute flippin' moron not to get this. Last one. I'm just going to start in verse 1 of chapter 29. Then Jacob went on his journey and came to the land of the people of the east. And as he looked, he saw a well in the field. And behold, 3 flocks of sheep were lying beside it. For out of that well the flocks were watered. The stone on the well's mouth was large. And when all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone from the mouth of the well and water the sheep, and then put the stone back in its place over the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, My brothers, where do you come from? They said, We are from Haran. And he said to them, Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. He said to them, Is it well with him? They said, It is well, and see, Rachel his daughter is coming with the sheep. He said, Behold, it is still high day, and it is not time for the livestock to be gathered together. Water the sheep, go and pasture them. But they said, We cannot until all the flocks are gathered together and the stone is rolled from the mouth of the well. Then we will water the sheep. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. Now as soon as Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, Jacob came near and rolled the stone from the well mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and wept aloud. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's kinsman, and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. As soon as Laban heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he ran and met him, and embraced him and kissed him, and brought him to the house. Jacob told Laban all these things, and Laban said to him, Surely you are my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him a month. So again, it has nothing to do with the movement of the sun. It has everything to do with the time of day. All of these passages have everything to do with the time of day, not the movement of the damn sun. And this guy is so ignorant of his own geography that he doesn't even know that, like, at certain parts, it's talking about, like, for instance, in Deuteronomy 4:41, okay, and 47, it's literally talking about the direction to the east. Are you an idiot? Do you not know the direction on which the sun rises and the sun sets? Because if you don't, son, I feel bad for you. Maybe you should get out more. Stop looking at these stupid-ass YouTube videos about people talking about flat Earth and actually go out and observe the spherical Earth for yourself. And start looking in the direction of what way the sun rises and what way the sun sets. And start actually learning what is out there instead of trying to get your dumbass views from idiots on YouTube. This frustrates me so much because he is trying to eisegete into this text so damn hard that he is literally creating something that is just asinine. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, drop a comment below, let me know what you think of this video so far and the series so far. Next week, I will be doing the Sword and Sorcery LP. As of filming this, reviewing this in the future is probably not going to mean much to you, but after that, I'm going to leave to go on a personal trip. I will be doing a Dune Part 2 review. I have Dune Part 1 right here. I'm going to be watching that this coming Tuesday, and then I'm currently watching through 84 Lynch Dune and the 2000 Sci-Fi Channel series, and I'm kind of getting some notes together for myself. I'm going to take some notes on Dune Part 2, and then when I come back, while I'm on my trip, I will make a small video that kind of tells about that whole thing. Then when I come back from my personal trip, I'll get back into these and we'll do some things from there. So as we say, we will see you on the next one.